Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Tuesday, August 24th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Royals beat writer Lynn Worthy and columnists Sam Mellinger and Vahe Gregorian got together on a SportsBeat Live earlier today. Now it's presented in podcast form. And we talked about what's going right with this team lately. It's many things, starting with the pitching. Daniel Lynch last night in Houston, Carlos Hernandez and Chris Bubic over the weekend against the Cubs, Brad Keller, Brady Singer, Mike Minor, they've all contributed to a hot stretch for the rotation. What does this mean for next season? And speaking of 2022, we discuss how the Royals could shape up in the middle infield with several options. Nicky Lopez, Whit Merrifield, Adalberto Mondesi, Bobby Witt. There are some above-average candidates here at shortstop, second base, and maybe center field and third base among this group. So let's get started talking Royals. Hey, good morning from Kansas City. Welcome to SportsBeat Live, our weekly discussion of all things Royals. We do that with the beat writing and columnizing folks here at the Star and with you. Please send us your questions and comments and join us in the discussion. I'd like to thank our sponsor, the University of Kansas Health System. They've been with us all season long, and you will hear from them later in the show. So, good morning, guys.
What's up?
Good morning.
That is resplendent green you're wearing, Vahe. That is Oakland A's green.
And here I was picking it for neutral colors that wouldn't be attributed to any team.
Not many teams wear the green, right? Your beloved Eagles, little green there.
Little Packers, but it is, a little homage to our baseball roots here in Kansas City.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
Earlier roots, anyway.
That's right. All right, let me start by asking this question. For the last week, 8 days or so, are we watching one of the best teams in baseball, Lynn Worthy?
For that period of time, yes.
Yes.
For that period of time, I hesitate to go much further with that. But yes, for that period of time. And the other thing is like you could look at that series with the Cubs and say, okay, the Cubs are, in a spot where they've traded off a lot of their team and, playing some bad ball. But they've been putting a whooping on the Astros, who are, leading the AL West and a team who's one of the best offensive teams in baseball right now. And their pitching has come to play and really led the way. So, and in this last, they've won, I think it's 6 out of 7 now or 7 out of 8, 4 in a row. They've played good all around ball, but obviously it's a small sample size, as we like to say.
Cubs also messing around with rain delays, so get a lot going for them there. A good place to start is the starting pitching. It really has been terrific. So what did I see? A 2.74 ERA over the last 8 games. The starters, the Royals are 7-1 in those games, and the starters are 5-0. And that continued on Monday night with Daniel Lynch's performance: 5 innings, 1 earned run against the Astros. Yeah, you're right, Lynn. They beat the Astros once again. That is 4 out of 5 from one of the best teams in the American League. I saw a great stat against the White Sox and the Indians. The Astros are, well over 500. I mean, terrific record. Against the Royals, Twins, and Tigers, well under 500. So the Astros have a problem against teams with poor records. But that doesn't take away from how well the Royals are playing, because even before that, if you throw out the Cardinals series, there have been some really nice moments for the Royals since the All-Star break. So, Sam, it's been about the starting pitching, hasn't it? I mean, at least that's where we need to start this discussion.
Yeah, and I'd also say, Cal Eldred took his fair share of poop many times during the season, and I hope whatever degree people did that, they're sending him some flowers now. The Daniel Lynch thing, and I'm glad we're doing this the day after he pitched. I mean, that turnaround is just remarkable. It's 6 starts and it's a 2.27 ERA across 35 innings, 35 and 2/3 innings in 6 starts since he came back up. He just looks confident. Everything's work. I mean, it's just that turnaround, I think, is sort of illustrative of, some other things that are going on too. But God, he's been incredible.
And I might point out that, folks who are watching this can read about Daniel Lynch and that turnaround on the kansascity.com.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, I just tweeted out a story about that.
In fact, they could absolutely have read it on their e-edition. Look, they could read it on kansascity.com as soon as the game is over, because that's how quickly you post game stories, Lynn. But now it's also part of the replica of the newspaper, which is the e-edition on kansascity.com, full game story. Speaking of Daniel Lynch, watching him last night, the movement on his pitches, he is, I don't know if he's top of the rotation, but he's darn close to being a top of the rotation talent, it seems to me, which gives the Royals, at least in the last few weeks, two candidates at that position with these young arms, talking about Carlos Hernandez as well. And I can't remember the last time the Royals had two guys like with seemingly the upside that these two have. What do you think, Vahe?
It is hard to remember. Even in my 8 years here, I don't quite remember it like this with two young guys. I have to wonder, I don't have Hernandez's numbers in front of me, but I know obviously he's been, I think, almost the same kind of par as Lynch, maybe a notch behind in overall innings. I'm not sure about that in this last six starts, but have we seen a guy have six starts in a row like Lynch in a decade? I don't recall that.
Not unless Ventura got on a roll or something, or I can't either. Hernandez's last five starts, 2.05 ERA, 215 opponent's batting average. He's 3-0, and he has just started 7 games this year, right? He was out of the bullpen for the first dozen or so, and he's only been a starter for the last 7 games. And my gosh, it's kind of an exciting prospect for an organization not known for developing pitchers.
It does start to reframe the discussion, doesn't it? And we've gone this far and have only made a veiled mention of the guy who went 6 no-hit innings the other day. So I don't need to cut you off at the pass there, Blair, but it does seem like some of these things are percolating in a way that certainly we wouldn't have foreseen a month ago as we look to what it's going to mean in the future.
Chris Bubich is who you're talking about, who started the game on Saturday and was just lights out for 6 innings. And then the lights came on at Wrigley Field, and so did the tarp. And so there was a delay for, was it 37, 38 minutes, Lynn? Let's just say the field was in great shape after the delay. But Mike Matheny was not. So just let's go back to that game in particular. Chris Bubich was just looking fantastic. He comes back in after the delay, gives up a walk and then a home run, so the no-hitter is gone. But still, a great performance by him.
Yeah, and it was also coming off of probably his worst performance in the majors. So to turn that around, go to Wrigley and turn in 6 no-hit innings, and really, who knows what happens if they don't have that delay. Should be pointed out with the delay, because I've heard, it's been said a bunch of times that there was a rain delay without rain. There was rain. It just wasn't enough that it should have delayed the game. For full accuracy, there was rain. It just wasn't enough to stop, a Little League game, much less a Major League game. And I think there was also lightning was part of it. And you saw, at least on the TV screens and everything, you saw that they had posted on the scoreboard that, for people to get underneath because of lightning. So, but 34 minutes when there was not much going on in the middle of a no-hitter is tough for anybody to swallow. You heard Mike Matheny speak pretty candidly about that. Nicky Lopez talked about it on the radio just yesterday. Whit Merrifield talked about how they were still ticked off about that. So, yeah, it was a rough way to go. But, again, in that larger scheme, Chris Bubich comes off with his worst start and then turns in a no-hitter for the better part of 7 innings or going into the 7th inning.
I don't know if Chicago native Bill Murray was on hand, but they could have used him there in his Carl Spackler role from Caddyshack, saying, "I'd play on."
Yeah, exactly. It was another win for the Royals that day. And like I said, that was 4 in a row now for the Royals and 7 out of 8. And they could have won that 8th game. That was the game where they had a 3-1 lead on the Astros late. Astros came back. It was the afternoon game at Kauffman Stadium, the final game of that series last week. And Astros ended up winning that game in extra innings. So, I know, Sam, I know you addressed this in your Mellinger Minutes that posted on kansascity.com and will be attached to the show notes on this show. Is there a 2013 feeling for this team? The The Royals now are 56-68, so 12 games under 500. After the same amount of games in 2013, the Royals were exactly 500. They were 64-64, but they would go on to lose a bunch more before they turned it around at the end of August and then the great September to finish 10 games over 500. Are there some elements of this team that feel like 2013 to you?
I think more 2012 for me than 2013. That 2013 team, that core, I think Hosmer, Perez, a bunch of those guys were like 23, 24 years old. Alex Gordon, I think, was 29. Lorenzo Cain, 27. I mean, I think they were in a different spot. And I also think this, though, the similarities to the 2012 team include, that was the our time season.
It was the our time season.
And there were some expectations, and it was a building thing, and it was just a huge disappointment. And many jokes were told, including some by me. But it was that core that was kind of coming together and moving forward. And I think that's the similarity that I see. I also think, though, that the way they're doing it this time is different enough from the first time that I don't know that those comparisons are like apples to apples. The important thing right now is what we've been talking about. It's Lynch and it's Bubic and it's Hernandez, who is just a boss. It's these guys getting going because most of the talent in the minor leagues is position players. And so if they get these arms where they need to, then the position players come up, whether that's sometime, this season, the little we have left, although Lynn has explained, why that's a little bit problematic, or it's next year or whatever. But these position players are going to come join, and I think that might be the 2013 years next year.
Which was a positive year, right? It was
great. I mean, yeah, it was 86 and 76. It was their first winning season since the great fluke of 2003. And, they were sort of in the playoff hunt until I think they were eliminated with maybe a week left, if I remember right, 5 days, something like that. It was real. It was with good players. It wasn't, Jose Lima signed sight unseen because he reached 85 miles an hour at the fastball. I mean, these were like good young players that you could see really, really taking with some traction. And I think that's kind of where this thing might be headed. I mean, the biggest difference, another reason why I think the comparisons are they're not great, is the division is so good. There's a lot of talent in this division. It wasn't like that the first time around. So the standard is a little bit higher now, I think.
There is talent in this division, but right now, second place Cleveland is about 500, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the White Sox, who have not been playing well lately, at the top, and then 4 also Rans in this AL Central.
If you look at farm system rankings, that was kind of where I'm thinking. And, the Tigers have some really, really true high-end guys. The White Sox, their farm system kind of stinks, but it's because all their guys are 24 years old and crushing it in the big leagues. The Indians have some guys. The Twins are a little bit, hit and miss, but it's just the White Sox are going to be really good for a long time, for at least 2, 3, 4 years, I would think, with the way that thing's built. So certainly doesn't make anything impossible, but it's just it's a different dynamic than existed when they were doing this the first time.
The Indians have some pitching too that hasn't been healthy this year. Pitching's always a year-to-year proposition, but if you think about Bieber and Plesac and some of the young guys they've got there, who threw, Quantrill, I think, threw a really good game the other day. We've seen that McKenzie kid be really good against the Royals. So, they've got some pitching. Again, that's a year-to-year thing. But when you've got pitching, you're in the mix.
For sure. And I was going to say the Royals own the White Sox this year, so I'm not terribly concerned about the Southsiders going forward. No, actually, you're right. I think the White Sox are set up to have a nice run of postseason appearances over the next few years. So let's take a break, and we'll hear from our sponsor, the University of Kansas Health System.
The Kansas City Royals lineup is backed up by the region's strongest team in healthcare, the University of Kansas Health System. We both suit up with one goal in mind: to win. The University of Kansas Health System, official healthcare provider of the Royals.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners: unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of KansasCity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit KansasCity.com/SportsBeat KC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. I did want to bring up one other name here that I have found to be pretty interesting for the Royals over the last few weeks, and that's Domingo Tapia. Lynn, where'd this guy come from? He's been put in some pretty tough situations like Monday night and has done a pretty darn good job.
Yeah, Monday night he comes in with 2 runners on, no outs in the 6th inning to take over for Lynch in what's a 2-1 game, and gets a strikeout in a double play to end that inning and to keep it 2-1. And I believe Mike Matheny's quote was, "That's the game right there." As far as he was concerned, that's the game right there. But yeah, he was most recently in Seattle. This is a guy who I want to say was back in 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there. He was in the Mets farm system and was looked at as a potential starter. And I still never actually gone back and looked it up because I think I may have crossed paths with him temporarily when I was in Binghamton, New York. And so, but I remember the name. He was supposed to be a starter. He was, part of that big cadre of arms that they had with the Harveys and the Familias and the Wheelers and all those guys at one point in time. But again, this is why you have to get 10 pitchers so that you get 2 in the end. It didn't work out. He bounced around to a couple organizations. I'm trying to remember if he was actually cut or just DFA'd or just sent to the minors for Seattle, but throws about 99, 100. And he's got a really hard slider, and that can do some things if you use it right. And he's been, I think, just this month, in the month of August, he's made 12 appearances, and the ERA is under 1. Batting average against is under 100, and he's been the guy that they go to, like, okay, we got to get out of this inning and try and keep it, where it is. Here comes Domingo Tapia.
That'll play. He's been really good and terribly interesting. And all of a sudden, there's another part of the future for the Royals. Although I think he's 30.
Been around a while.
Yeah. I mean, I think he broke into baseball in 2010, and he has been in baseball for quite a while. Only probably less than 50 major league appearances. He was with the Red Sox for a little bit, and as you said, Seattle, and now with the Royals. But gosh, he's been fun to watch and quite effective. So. We've talked on previous shows about what the Royals are going to do with center field in the future, but the answer may be part of the bigger question I wanted to ask you guys. What's going to happen as we look toward next year? How do you see the middle infield shaping up with the candidates of Nicky Lopez, Whit Merrifield, and Adalberto Mondesi, along with Bobby Witt? How are we going to see the middle of the field at shortstop, second base, and center field among those? And do we have our starting shortstop, second baseman, and center fielder among those 4 players? Sam, what do you think?
I think Lopez has won that job. I think that
shortstop.
I just think he's had just a really significant 2021 season, defensively and offensively. He's not going to be a power hitter, obviously, but leads the team in on base percentage. It's somewhere above 350, I think. So, and he's just played the position so well defensively. And I don't think that the Royals are going to move him off of that the way that he's played. And also, I think it matters just the kind of teammate he is. I think the Royals value that stuff. So if I'm right about that, they've had Witt, they've had third base in mind for him at times, but that's part of why giving Manny Rivera a lot of time there is to see what they've got there. I keep wondering about Witt in center field. I just think that athleticism, they say if you can play shortstop, you can play anywhere. And I just think the athleticism, the arm, the instincts, I think it would play out there. And look, there's a lot of other factors, and I don't know a lot of them. So maybe there's a good reason why that wouldn't happen. And then I think with Mondesi, there's certain positions you can get by without being able to count on a guy playing 162 or even like 140 or whatever. And I just don't think shortstop's one of them. And so I wonder if they can sort of deploy him, 4 or 5 times a week as some sort of like super utility guy. which could do a couple things. One, you can manage sort of the load management. Don't we use that term in basketball or whatever, but you can sort of harness that a little bit, and you can also fill in different spots around the diamond. He's certainly athletic enough to do it. I don't know. I just wonder if that might be what ends up happening. But the one thing that I feel the most sure of out of all that is that Nicky Lopez has won that job.
Would you have Merrifield at second base?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's his best defensive position. I know he can play it, but I don't love him in the outfield. He's more than a good enough athlete to do it, but it seems to me that second base is his best position.
I think the more he's played that spot this year, we've really started to see more of how good he can be there. I mean, like, he's bounced around so much. And if you go back to 19, remember, he moved off of second for Nicky Lopez. Like, that was basically how they made a spot for Nicky to play every day, was to say, okay, Whit, we're going to move you off second. And he did it, even though he knew then that, second was probably his best spot. I mean, he's always said that and felt that way. But there was some hiccups early. I mean, it was maybe in April when, there was a ball that he didn't field that cost Keller one of those outings, when it seemed like every other game Keller had some ground ball that cost him part of his outing. I remember he had one of those that was one that we were talking about for a couple of days. But as he's gone along, you've seen him, he's one of those guys that Mike Matheny's touting about 4 different guys for a Gold Glove right off the middle of the defense. And the numbers say that's not actually that crazy a thing. That's not just the manager, touting his guy. That if you were to stop the season right now, he'd probably be one of the finalists. And Mondesi, he's not going to be counting those an everyday guy. They're going to have to look at least somebody else in that roster who can play shortstop every day. And I think part of Dayton coming out and saying what he said at the time was, how can you sit there and say that Mondesi is going to be your everyday shortstop when Nicky's been playing the way he has? Like, you couldn't come out and say that and then look Nicky Lopez in the eye and say, good job, kid. Like, no, that wasn't going to work.
Weigh in, Vahe.
No, not much to add, but it's just an interesting premise as you guys have laid it out with the way Nicky Lopez has played. Part of the point that you're making, I think, is that the durability and the dependability, the notion that that's every day, right? That maybe if you're going to look at it that way, then it's not like Mondesi's playing there twice a week, right? You're thinking more about a different position for Mondesi. And are we looking at any scenario where we're thinking about Mondesi and Witt both in the outfield? Maybe not. I kind of have a little spider sense about Witt maybe at third base, but like you said, Sam, that's why they're checking out Rivera a little more now. We'll see what that adds up to. But I just had not really thought before very much, and I should have, about the idea that Nicky Lopez has really entrenched himself. Talk about a guy taking advantage of the opportunity after really a crazy turn. Anyway, nothing else to add. It's just great food for thought from you guys.
The one thing I think that it's also worth keeping in mind when we go through this stuff is it's easy to get caught up in Mondesi hurt, the oblique, all this stuff, but it's also true that the Royals are in a really good spot here. They've got 3 guys who can play above average big league shortstop. Say what you want about Mondesi, but that's a situation that a lot of teams would trade for. The Royals can do a lot of different things depending on how the rest of the roster works out, but they're insulated really well at that position, having 3 guys like that.
I know we established early that the Royals could be, a couple years away from the playoffs, but I just like the idea with this developing pitching staff and the additions of Mondesi and Bobby Witt to the lineup next year, that you could be looking at a team that in the second half of the season could make a push, especially if, look at Jackson Kowar develops, Brady Singer decides to throw and master a third pitch, the types of things that we've talked a lot about. But baseball's a sport of optimism, and the present tense isn't always the best tense to talk about baseball. So we're going to fast forward to August of 2022 to talk about this team. But one player who's tearing up the present tense is Salvador Perez. With every home run, every game, it seems like he does something special. And I sure would like to see him. I think in a year where Shohei Ohtani is going to deservedly be the American League MVP, I sure would like to see Salvi finish in the top 5 for this, just for his career legacy and to help build his credentials as a Hall of Fame player. He's having a season that compares favorably among the best offensive seasons by a catcher. But what can we say about Salvador Perez and the season that he's having? And he's still got more than a month to add on to his totals, which are now 33 home runs, 81 RBIs. I thought that Ryan and Rex made a great point last night. He's hitting almost 100 points above his career average swinging at breaking balls. Before they hit the home run, didn't he let a couple of breaking balls from Greinke, dart outside that he laid off and then swatted the home run into the Crawford boxes last night? So what about Salvador Perez, Lynn, and the season he's having and his value to this team?
2 more walks last night. That's right. We got to point that out for Salvador Perez.
So he's up to 10 this season?
Actually, I've got to go look at the number, but yeah, he
double
17. I've got it in front of me because I'm a dork.
Okay. I was going to say, because he's had, that's at least 2 games, maybe more, but at least 2 games with 2 walks for Salvi. That's stop the presses type stuff, But yeah, I mean, for playing that position behind the plate, taking the beating that he's taken. I mean, you don't have to go back that far. Go back, within this week, we had that game where he took, a ball off of the knee, a bat that hit him on the finger on the backswing, and then took a, foul ball straight back off the helmet, and didn't even get the face mask. It went right off the helmet. So it was, not one of those where the face mask designed to sort of like take away some of that impact. It was right on the helmet, and then didn't even miss the full day because he got in it that late, but they missed the day behind the plate. And he's played all but 1 game this season, that 1 game that he pinch hit, but then missed 1 entire game. He's among the league leaders in home runs. I'd have to go look and see who the other catcher is that's anywhere near that as far as him. Just having a career year. I mean, it's not like he's hitting 230 and just mashing like you see a lot of guys doing now. I mean, he's like 270. I mean, like he's swinging it pretty dang good, and he's taking his walks. I think if the Royals had a better record, he'd probably be getting a lot more attention as far as look at that season that Salvador Perez has had.
Can I say 2 quick statistical things about him? One is he's DHing more than he ever has in his career. But when I looked this up, at least yesterday, he was 3rd in baseball in innings caught. He's still taking on, kind of a lion's share of this thing. And I also just looked this up since the elbow surgery. He's played 160 games, basically a full season. And this is basically since he turned 30 as well, slugging .551, 31 doubles, 44 home runs. It really is remarkable. This guy that everybody thought, the Royals too internally, thought was going to go like this as he got older just because of all this wear and tear. I mean, it's not logical at all. It makes no sense, but it's exactly what's happening. It's crazy.
Just to chime in really quickly, I mean, so he spent almost half his life in the Royals organization, 10 years in the big leagues now. And to Sam's point, the Royals felt this way, and by any logical measure, I think we surely figured at least something like that. Mm-hmm. And instead, he just getting older, getting stronger. There's a Marvel character. It happens to be a villain, but in Salvi's case, he's one of the good guys. The absorbing man. The more stuff he takes, the stronger he gets. I think of that with Salvi sometimes. Get hit in the head, hit on the knee, gets older, just gets stronger.
On a future show, we'll talk about how not playing in 2019 just may have changed his trajectory at the plate. What did he learn in that year? But you're right, Sam, in the last 2020 and 2021, he has just been one of the best hitters in baseball. It's great to see. And, talk about him being overlooked just because of the record of the team. It was like he was overlooked in the home run derby this year at the All-Star game. That's just the nature of playing in Kansas City, I suppose. All right, a week from today, we will reconvene to talk Royals again, and we will be on the eve of call-ups, right? It's September 1st for the call-ups, which is a Wednesday, and we will be able to talk about if we already know who it is by then, or we can certainly speculate the heck out of that this time next week. So for Vahe Gregorian, Lynn Worthy, Sam Mellinger, and our producer, Beth Welsh, thanks for tuning in. That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. A tip of the cap to Lynn Worthy, Sam Mellinger, and Vahe Gregorian for stopping by and talking Royals. Links to their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we have another deal for you. You can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. Sports Pass is the online version of the Star Sports section. You get all the stories that appear in the print editions of the Star, plus additional stories that appear only on the website. And of course, they're posted first on kansascity.com. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. It's a great time to subscribe. Read about what's going on with the Chiefs, getting ready for their third preseason game Friday against the Vikings, those hot Royals, the colleges, and all the realignment stories that are happening, our soccer teams, and more. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/sportspass2020. That's kansascity.com/sportspass2020. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Wednesday with another episode.